Coming to get you, Bobber.
Joyride is a 2001 horror movie directed by John Dahl, and it stars Steve Zahn, Paul Walker and Lily Sobieski. First off, the title might be a little bit confusing to some people. Joyride is the US name for the movie Roadkill. It's called Roadkill in the UK, it's called Joyride in the US. Both of them are the exact same movie. Three young people on a road trip from Colorado to New Jersey talk to a trucker on their CB radio. They must escape when he turns out to be a psychotic killer. A quick backstory for myself with this movie. I watched it for the first time back in 2002. Yeah, it came out in 2002 in the UK. And the first thing that I wanted to do was buy a CB radio and do prank calls, even though I had a mobile phone at the time. I'd just turned 18 when I first watched this film, and I was watching all the great slasher movies of the late 90s and the early noughties. But this movie, it wasn't really a slasher movie. It was composed by Marco Beltrami, who'd done all the slasher movies from the 90s and the early noughties, and it still had that slasher feel to it, and I think that's why I was drawn towards it, because it did look like the classic slasher movie from that era. But that's not what this movie was at all. When you first put it on, it's nothing like those late 90s, early noughties slashers. I'll start off with the characters. There wasn't that many characters, and I think that's a good thing, because we get to see that character build straight from the beginning. We've got Lewis and Fuller, who are brothers. We find out straight from the beginning that Fuller's a bit of a hothead. He always gets put into jail. Lewis is the more level-headed guy. He's at college, he's got this girl that he's interested in, and he does anything that he can to get with this girl, Venna, who's played by Lily Sobieski. And the story is, Lewis just wants to get with her. He wants to do whatever he can to be with her. He finds out that she's broke up with her boyfriend, so he sells his plane ticket and he buys a car just so he can give her a lift. And on the way, he has to pick up his brother from jail, and that's when the fun starts to happen. And when I say the fun happens, it's because everything that his brother does, it's stuff that I would have wanted to do as a kid as well. Even though his brother was in his early 30s, he buys a CB radio on their way to get Venna, and they do a little prank on some of the truck drivers. But one of the truck drivers takes it a little bit over the top, and his name is Rusty Nail.
I knew it! These guys are so fucking horny!
One of the stars of this film is actually uncredited, and it's the voice of Rusty Nail, played by Ted Levine. Ted Levine has got one of those voices that are so unique but scary at the same time, and I couldn't have thought of anyone better to play Rusty Nail. The chemistry between Lewis and Fuller was great all the way through the movie. They did actually feel like brothers. They look nothing alike, and they act nothing alike. Their height difference is a bit off as well, because Fuller's the older one. But the chemistry between both actors was great, and it made me genuinely believe that not only were they brothers, they did love each other. Although Venna's character was integral to the storyline with the pink champagne and the girl, I think that if they left Venna out of this movie, I wouldn't have missed her character. She was a little bit pointless, but near the end of the movie, without spoiling anything, she wasn't that pointless in the end, but I could have seen this movie work without her. I like the cat and mouse chase all the way through this as well. We've got this guy who, he just wants to have fun with them, but also he wants to kill them at the same time, and the way he makes fun of them and with them is quite scary. There are scenes that are quite tense, especially when I was 18. I wasn't that scared, but at the same time it's quite tense. There were some moments, because out in the wilderness, that out in the open, it still felt like this claustrophobic movie, and that was again props to the director, John Dahl. The movie seemed to have taken inspiration from The Hitcher, only in this movie we don't actually see The Hitcher. The Hitcher in this instance is Rusty Nail, the truck driver. Even when the movie wasn't scary, it was still tense as well. When you had Lewis and Fuller doing the prank on Rusty Nail, they send him to the room next door, room 18 or room 17, and just that whole build up of what's about to happen. You know something's going to go wrong. They don't know it's going to go wrong, but even though we know it's going to go wrong, we're still having fun with them as if we're part of the prank. And I think again, that's just great filmmaking. For a story to have a villain off screen for 90% of the time, but still be engaged with this character and still be scared of this character even though you don't see him, is props to Ted Levine once again, because his voice work was fantastic. Although this movie isn't perfect, I don't think I have any negatives for it. Sometimes I do have little negatives and things that movies can improve on, but I think with what they tried to do in this film, they've done it perfectly. So although it's not a perfect movie, I think it was a fun ride Joyride, and it's a movie that I was looking forward to watching again, and I'm glad I did. I watched it a couple of days ago for this review, and even though I'd seen it before and I knew what happened in it, I was still on the edge of my seat thinking, hurry up, go, go, go. It was just that good. With all the slashers coming out in the late 90s and the early noughties, and some of the monster movies that were coming back in the early noughties, I think that Joyride, aka Roadkill, is one of the ones that stand out for me, and it's one of the ones I would always put on first before any of the other ones in that era. So have you seen Joyride, guys? And for those of you from the UK, have you seen Roadkill? If you have, let me know what you thought about it down below. Anyway guys, thanks a lot for watching again. Thanks for subscribing. I'll see you soon. Bye bye.